Hello, YouTube. It's Sunday, May 7th, 4:44 p.m. It's 2023 still. I'm in a lot of pain. A lot of physical, Jesus Christ. A lot of physical pain. A lot of emotional pain. Just a lot of pain. I really just want the pain to end. I don't know what I did to my back, exactly when, but it seemed like I was fine when I was at work yesterday. Well, this morning. Didn't really notice the problem when I was walking to the bus stop and then walking to the other bus stop, trying to get a bus home. This morning was hell. And I totally forgot just how shitty Sunday morning bus schedules are. And it's a twofold thing. Like, not only are the bus schedules bad, but the reliability of the buses actually showing up or being on time for those schedules is even worse. But when I really noticed the pain and Jesus, fuck, the mobile, ow, Jesus, oh, it hurts so bad. I can barely move. I can barely walk right now, and it sucks because I really have no choice but to walk because I don't have anybody in my life that can help me out with rides, and I can't afford, ride services and still be able to do things like, pay my rent and eat. And oh God, it hurts so bad. And I don't have anybody in my life really, but in any capacity, but certainly not anybody in my life to help me with the ride right now. Maybe I should go to a doctor to try to do something about this, but I don't really know how to do that other than to go to an urgent care. I don't know if they're open on Sunday, but again, that's the walk. It's so brutal. Anyway, I just know I have to get to work or I'm going to lose my job. And then I'll end up being just another one of these homeless people under the tree like that guy. And I don't want him. I'm so scared that's my future. But I feel like I'm almost helpless to avoid that future. But I'm still trying to avoid that future. So, when I noticed this sharp back pain that has my back all twisted and has it to where I can barely walk, and I'm walking really slow, was, oh my God, it hurts. I don't know, maybe I did notice it when I was walking from Van Buren to McDowell, but when I most noticed it was when the bus showed up at, oh Jesus, it hurts. So the McDowell bus finally showed up, which was a good solid, hour, well over an hour after I got off work. Probably closer to an hour and a half after I got off work. It's just so depressing how long it takes to get home from work right now. I mean, if I had my car in an hour and a half, I could be to Tucson, but an hour and a half, I'm still waiting for the goddamn bus to show up. Still just barely over a half mile away from work. God, and now I can hardly walk. So anyway, as I got up to get on the bus, I noticed I could barely stand up, and it was a real struggle just to simply get on the bus. And when I tried to get off the bus, and the bouncing of the bus really hurt on my back. It was really painful. Like in the bus, those who haven't rode a Phoenix City bus, it's not a smooth ride at all. They jostle and bounce and squeak and shake, and it was hurting my back the entire way. And then when I finally made it to 48th Street, like an hour and a half later, I don't know, felt like an hour and a half later. I don't remember what time I got home, but seems like it was almost 8 o'clock in the morning. And I left work 20 minutes early, too, because I was pushing the 60-hour thing. And that ended up being a big ordeal last night, to the point that I snapped at some area manager that I didn't know, that I guess had gotten assigned to running MP last night. I didn't even realize he was the guy running MP. When he came up and talked to me, what he said was wrong, and it just pushed some buttons, and I pretty much told him that he told me I had to leave at 4 o'clock because I was over an hour, that I had to leave at 4 o'clock. I'm like, no, I don't have to leave at 4 o'clock. I have to leave when I'm at 60 hours. I don't have to leave before. I have to leave when I'm at 60 hours. Why are you trying to deprive me of my income? My car just got impounded, and I need every bit of income I can get to try to resolve the situation. I said, if I lose that car, I don't even have a reason to live anymore. So if I lose that car, I'm just ending myself, because I just can't go on anymore. Gotten this before the fucking back pain. Anyway, heaven forbid he actually respond to that. Apparently it's policy. Amazon, he had to report it to HR, and then HR got loss prevention involved. I don't understand what. Because loss prevention also handles suicide watch. They asked me all the fucking suicide watch questions. I get a feeling their concern is just that I don't do it there. The last thing they need is me throwing myself in the auger or the trash compactor or something really heinous with a forklift. I don't know. Every time I look at a speeding vehicle on a road, it's tempting to just throw myself in front of it. I'm scared of the pain, but I'm already in pain, and I was realizing over the course of the last month that the only things that I really need as a constant in my life to be happy, the two things that I need as a constant, is to be able to drive, the freedom, the mobility, and the feeling of completeness that comes from driving, which basically is the only way to escape the feeling of being a second-class citizen when I'm not driving, because I feel completely lesser than and less than a real human when I'm not driving. Like, there's these videos that are all over YouTube now called Homelessness in Phoenix. Yeah, they have titles like that, Homelessness in Phoenix, and they're compilations of people that are walking around, mostly in the area near where Bullock's Cocktails is, around 27th Avenue and Bethany Home ish, but just homeless, and there's no way to tell which of those people are homeless. You could assume some of them probably are, especially the ones pushing shopping carts full of garbage, or the ones that are just absolutely filthy, sitting in a spot, just not doing anything, just sitting, covered in their own filth. But But other people are just simply walking, carrying a backpack, just as I'm doing right now. And the reality is that in Phoenix, you're assumed to be homeless if you're walking. It's just an assumption, you know, because you're not fully human unless you're driving. So, yeah, like, the things I need to be able to do regularly to be happy is driving my own vehicle that's reliable, which is something it's just, I mean, I've done it, you know, it's generally, it's just something that's, it feels like that's something that's eluded me kind of my whole life. Like, it just seems like it's always been a struggle to have a vehicle it seems like something so normal for everybody else. And I just have always, there's so many years of my life that I just haven't had a vehicle, and I've had to live this life of less than. And, you know, in the mental health programs, they'll give you a bus card, but they don't seem to understand how much damage traveling by bus card is doing to my mental health. You know, but there's no programs to give people cars. It's just those programs aren't there. And the fucked up thing is, I look at the numbers of how much money is spent on certain programs that are ineffective. And if that money was spent on providing reliable vehicles to the poor, there'd be money left over, and the poor would have higher quality of life. Anyway, that's the one main thing I need. And the other thing I need is just someone to make love to on a regular basis. Yeah, I don't want to go into that. But it feels like I don't have any prospect for either of those things in the foreseeable future, which really makes me not want to partake in the foreseeable future. Especially adding this back pain on top of it. I'm going to work. I don't know how functional I'm going to be at work like this. And that talk I had with the HR gal, she's the one who dealt with me when I walked in front of the robot, and dealt with me when I had my incident. Oh, Jesus, my back hurts. When I had my TDR incident as well. She's really, really cute. It's like, is there anything I can do to help? Well, I don't know. You could take me in as your boyfriend. I didn't say that, but... You know, and then as I was trying to get home from work, and it was such a struggle to get home from work, I'm thinking, you know, what I should have told just to see the reaction, because then the reaction is going to be, well, I can't do that. But when the loss prevention guy was saying, well, you know, is there anything I can do to help? Well, I told him, I don't feel like, you know, that, yeah, he asked, you know, do you think about killing yourself in the last month? Have you thought about killing yourself, or have you thought about going to sleep and not waking up again? My Lord, I think about that almost every day. And I mean, it's almost every day of the last 3 years, 5 years. I don't know. That's just been my reality for really large parts of my adult life. I mean, there've been a few random breaks from it here and there, but I don't know. With the mental illnesses I have, I just don't feel like I belong in this world, and sometimes I resent that I was even born. So I'm a misfit. I'm never gonna find real happiness. I mean, I've failed at making a family. I've failed at being a husband. I'm never gonna, just failed at being a boyfriend with Priscilla. I feel like she's given me many chances, and yeah, I always talk about how she's failed me, but I mean, the reality is I've surely completely failed her. Why would she want a fucking mess like me, It's amazing she's stuck around as long as she did. A. Go and Drive. I wonder what the hell that vehicle was. So A. Go and Drive has got a bunch of stickers on it. I would love to go and drive. So I didn't even try to call Rob today. It's Sunday. Things just don't function on Sunday. I didn't try to call Rob, and I didn't try to call the tow company on that impound notice. I figure I'll deal with all that stuff tomorrow. By the time I got home, I was just in so much pain, and I was so frustrated and tired. I just hobbled. I collapsed trying to get up from my seat in the bus and get off the bus. I collapsed and kind of had to crawl off the bus. And then I hobbled into 7-Eleven and got a couple slices of pizza. 7-Eleven right there. And then kind of hobbled along the route I just took home, except for I went in the alley versus down Oak Street to the back door. And I did see a homeless person lying next to his bicycle right by the alley where I turn in away from the bike route to head towards my back door. And I just thought, it's like, I'm so close to that. And that guy, am I any less miserable than that guy? I'm probably in more pain than that guy. That guy probably has a better sex life than I do. I had a better sex life when I was homeless. I don't really understand how, but I did. I always had a better sex life when I was homeless. Hell, sometimes when I was homeless, I had vehicles to drive. I don't see anybody ever helping me out with a vehicle again. And at one point, I was telling the HR people, I was in that office for a while, I was telling them about all the vehicles I've had, and they're like, well, why don't you sell some of them? I said, well, I really don't know how. And I don't. There's a lot of things I just really don't know how to do. And I guess I'm just not really, I've just never really, all these years just never really learned how to live as an adult properly, because whatever everybody else is doing, I don't seem to be doing it right. Because I'm sitting here at this bus stop, and I don't even know when the fucking bus is going to show up. And it's hard to say if it will or not, because even if it's scheduled, there's about a 50% chance on a Sunday it ain't going to show up. So yeah, that was my reality, trying to get the bus. When I got out, and I hardly ever work a Saturday night, so I'm not used to looking at what this, at least, the last time I worked Saturday night, I had my car, so I'm not used to looking at what the Sunday schedules are coming out. But I left the building at 5:10 to realize that the next bus on McDowell wasn't even going to be until I want to say 5:50. So the thought of spending 40 minutes sitting on McDowell wasn't appealing. Now the next bus that was supposed to show up on Van Buren was only maybe 20-25 minutes away, which still is longer than I like to sit, but it looked like my only option. So I went there and I sat, and then at one point it showed that it was going to show up early. And I was thinking, oh God, I just, almost missed it because it's running early. And then I looked at the transit app to see where the bus was, and it showed that it was at 75th Avenue in Van Buren. I'm like, shit, early. It says it's coming early in a couple minutes, but if it's a 75th Avenue, it already passed me. And then I realized it was a 75th Avenue headed west. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then I watched that bus in the app. It was listed as my bus for the next like 3 or 4 minutes. And then it just completely dropped off the app and never did. Oh my God, I can't even stand up straight right now. Ouch. Oh my God, that hurt. It just straight up didn't show up. It went from saying in the app that it was running early to just disappearing off as the next bus, and it showed the next bus was over 30 minutes away. And there was some African guy with an ABM vest sitting next to me at the bus stop, and he had his cell phone playing some kind of, I don't know, some kind of fight broadcast, but in some kind of really abrasive African language, and he had it cranked up really loud, and it was just really, I don't know, it was just really upsetting me. And I try to be tolerant of other cultures, I really do, but Jesus Christ, dude, put in some fucking earphones. Just the sound of it. The sound of it was just so abrasive, and I was already like super depressed and frustrated, and that just kind of put me over the top. And I looked to see at that point, it's like, well, the first bus didn't show up on Van Buren, so it's a whole mile walk from this, because it's like a half from where I get out of the warehouse. It's a little over a half-mile walk to Van Buren, and it's a tiny bit farther, but a little over a half-mile walk to McDowell. It's a same walk to either. For that matter, a little bit less than a half-mile walk to 83rd Avenue, but I don't know. Just taking the 83rd Avenue bus up just seems like an extra redundant step. And I've tried doing the bus transfer at 83rd and McDowell, and that's just fentanyl central at that intersection. It's bad, like worse than 44th and Oak. And then I've also tried doing the bus transfers over at when you take the 83rd Avenue bus, it'll take you up to Desert Sky Transit Center, which is by the old Westridge Mall, which I think is called Desert Sky Mall now. And it's those transfers just always seem to take a really long time, and it seems like the Thomas bus takes more time. It takes even more time to get across town than the McDowell bus does, and the McDowell bus is pretty brutal. Van Buren bus doesn't seem to be as bad, but again, like I couldn't bear waiting at that stop any longer with that guy's just noise, all this shouting and an aggressive foreign. It's like, oh God, it was shit was giving me the fucking heebie-jeebies, and it's just really pumping my anxiety, and I resisted the urge to kick the phone out of his hands and destroy it. So I feel like I accomplished a little something, because that's what the voices in my head were telling me to do. And that's not a reason to lash out at that guy. He's just doing what he thinks is acceptable. But boy, was it disturbing my peace. So anyway, I got up and I walked to McDowell, and it took me so long to walk to McDowell that by the time I got to McDowell and I checked the bus app, that so from what I could tell, when I looked at the bus app in the first place, it looked like the first McDowell bus wasn't running, because it was just saying scheduled. It wasn't giving me any kind of indication, like on time or early or delayed. Those are the three words that tell me the bus is actually working. It just says scheduled. When it says scheduled, most of the time, if it says scheduled in the app on a bus that's coming soon, that just means it's not showing up. It's just not going to show up. There's no drivers in it. And people who don't use the bus don't understand this. You know, people that administer these, oh, we'll get you a bus card and you'll have transportation. They don't actually, the people that administer those programs and give those cards out, they don't actually ride the buses themselves. In fact, I asked the guy that I was having that conversation with, tell him, and just like, yeah, this has just got me. I said, at this point, I feel like I'm gonna lose my car. And I said, I at this point, yeah, the reality, do you understand how long it takes me to get to work and how miserable of an experience it is? Have you ever tried to function in this city without a car? And he admitted that no, he hadn't. And I asked him how old he is. And he said 53. I said, I'm 52. We're essentially the same age. I said, now imagine if you didn't have a car and you didn't have a family and you didn't have a partner and you didn't have were just barely able to pay your rent. I said, would you feel that you had a future? Would you feel that you had anything to live for? And boy, when I turned it around on him like that, he just seemed a little like he was kind of at a loss for words. And when I asked him, have you ever tried to get around the city without a car? And he's like, well, no, I can't say that I have. Okay. So unless you've, like the old saying, unless you've walked a mile in my boots, you can't judge this. You can't judge how miserable this is. If you look at the bus schedule and you're like, oh, well, look, yeah, there's this bus and it comes at this time and it connects to that bus that comes at that time. Dude, there's a 50% chance on Sunday that bus isn't going to show up. I mean, at this point now, like, I've been filming for 26 minutes and almost 27 minutes. There hasn't been a bus here yet. Lots of people driving by. Nobody slowing down to ask if I need a ride. Nobody cares about strangers on the side of the road. They probably all assume I'm homeless. My hair's a little disheveled, I'm not good at that. I mean, I'm wearing a safety vest. I think that at least kind of makes it look like I'm headed to work as opposed to just a bum taking residence on the bus stop. I was going to change the fact that nobody's offering me a ride. Now, granted, if I was even a moderately attractive female showing leg, people would be offering me a ride, but they would actually be hoping to pick me up for sex. And to be honest, I would love it if somebody would pick me up for sex. That would be great. In fact, I've been thinking about going to some of the areas where panhandlers hang out and standing on the median like they like to do, with a sign saying, we'll work for sex, just to see how that pans out. Because I literally have nothing better to do with my time at this point. But yeah, I told the people at the HR person and who were basically checking to find out, is this guy seriously want to kill himself? And why do they care? At this point, they're probably going to look for a way to fire me just to remove that liability. Since I do have a life insurance policy through them, and I'm sure they don't want to have to pay that out when I off myself. Or maybe it's got a provision where they don't have to if I do that. I don't know. I've never read the fine print on that shit. But yeah, the 29 minutes, still no bus. Now, I would imagine of that 29 minutes, probably 10 of it was the walk here. I think it takes me about, woman in the crosswalk is cute. If I was just going home to a woman that looked like that, I'd probably be in a much better disposition. But then again, I mean, at one point I was going home with Priscilla and I was horribly miserable in that situation too. But the reality was that she absolutely didn't clean up after herself and made my place a mess. And granted, my place is just as messy, if not worse, now. And she's been gone for nearly a year. But I just... I feel like I could have kept it clean had she not messed it up. But I feel powerless to clean up the mess that's there. It's just too much. It's a mountain too high to climb, and there is absolutely nobody wants to help me with that shit. Nobody. My parents are gone. My dad has functionally disowned me. I maybe talked to him 3 times in the last decade, and every time I just felt like I was imposing on him just by being in his presence. It was clear I just kind of felt like he just wishes I didn't exist. And maybe he'll get his wish on that at some point. Although he's so fucking old, that's